Hey, Diana, did you know that most law firm owners confuse activity with results?
Mark, that's the dumbest thing you've ever said.
Ladies and gentlemen, jurists and just curious, welcome to the Successful Barrister podcast. Here you'll learn about marketing, management, and life skills for lawyers that probably won't get you disbarred. Hosted by Marc Whitehead, a seasoned lawyer who remembers when fax machines were cutting edge, and Diana Berry, attorney, COO, and the brains behind the scenes. Together, they are the legal world's most dynamic duo since statutes met regulations. So if you're looking to build a practice, not a prison, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Successful Barrister, where legal legends are made.
And welcome to the Successful Barrister podcast, the podcast for lawyers and law firm leaders about marketing, management, and life skills that probably won't get you disbarred. I am your host, Marc Whitehead, alongside my co-host, my number one, my COO, Diana Berry. Hey, Diana, what's up?
Not much. How are you doing, Mark?
Good. So I noticed that you, in your infinite wisdom, have already scheduled our massages tomorrow for the Fireproof Conference.
Yep. So Even Up is doing a chair massage. And of course, I got on that. And then you got mad that I scheduled mine without scheduling yours too, which I didn't realize was, in my job description.
To
Yeah.
take care of me.
Yeah. So I did schedule you that. So shout out to Even Up. We look forward to seeing you.
We loved Even Up. They're very nice to us.
Yep.
They've been more than kind to us over the.
Well, they have great products too. They've obviously conquered the PI space, and so are now really focused on some of the other contingency plaintiff-focused practice areas. And so I'm really excited about the collaboration with Even Up in ways that they can do that, that their tools can help the disability firms as well.
And more than anything, they really take care of us, and they give us lots of goodies, so we have to pimp them out.
Even Up's and they have great people. We're also excited about seeing Eve. They're also doing some things. I signed me up for that. I don't know if you signed you up for that, Mark.
Didn't even know. See, I don't know these things. I'm not on the list. Apparently, you sign us up, so you're on the list.
I did not sign you.
They
up
send
for all
you all the
things.
emails.
No, but so we are headed to Fireproof tomorrow. By the time that this airs, we will have already returned. But the Fireproof Conference in Austin, Texas, for 2 days, 2 nights, 3 days.
3 days, 2 nights. Yes.
Yep, and so really excited about it. We used to be Fireproof clients.
Yes, we did during the pandemic. So the very first year that Fireproof came out, it was purely a virtual program.
I went to an event.
Well, I know that was the next year.
Oh.
Remember?
I don't remember when we joined, but they've since changed their business model to really focus on that kind of the EOS component to where really more coaching, business coaching, and 90IO and those types of things. So really excited to see what Fireproof is doing. And of course, lots of great speakers at that conference. Bill Biggs.
It is just 2 days. We're not in the office, which is awesome.
Yep. Lots going on in the office, but I am excited to go out and learn from the industry greats.
We will miss them greatly as we're off having a nice cocktail. So.
But today we are talking about organizational behavior, Mark.
Or as I like to say, organizational misbehavior.
Is that what you like to say?
Yeah, well, that's what I see a lot.
So I guess we should start from the very top. So this is, I think,
This is
course 5?
This is episode 4.
4
in our Great Courses study of critical business skills for success. So we've talked about this in the past, and we've done, I'm going to have a hard time rattling off. So the first one we did was strategy. Then we did finance. Then we did, what was the third one?
Oh, I'm just enjoying this so much.
Why are you putting me on the spot? I do not remember.
Operations.
Operations. And today we're going to go over organizational strategy, which, is, explain to me in your high C brain how is operations different from organizational behavior?
Oh, no, I defer to you, Mark, and all of your wisdom and why you even call it organizational misbehavior.
Okay. Well, because it only gets to me when people are misbehaving. If people are behaving, it never gets to me.
Oh, well, I would hope not. But go ahead and tell me, just frame it for our listeners, what is organizational behavior?
Okay. Well, organizational behavior is basically how the operations are structured, how the operations are staffed in order to actually get things done. to actually make things happen. You know, how to keep the files moving, how to keep the revenue coming in. It is basically sort of almost a holistic, organic approach to kind of that foo-foo, touchy-feely thing, you know, about how HR combines with your systems and processes, and you combine the human element with sort of the systemic element, with sort of the technology element to actually, you know, how is the sausage actually made? Mostly, how is the bacon actually made? So,
Well, so the
because we
great
all
course.
want the bacon.
So the great course is actually defined organizational behavior as the study of human behavior in the workplace and the development of practices for bringing out the best of the people in your workplace. And so organizational
Well,
behavior,
minimizing the worst, either way.
well, it helps us understand why people behave the way they do at work. So I guess that's how you get your misbehavior comment, but also to helps us discover how leaders can and should bring out the very best in the people that work for them. And so in true Mark fashion, the great courses, we're not going to cover the whole entirety or even summarize it like we have in the past in some of the other great courses. Mark has selected a few of the
I
topics.
just, it was too much for one podcast. I
And
mean,
so
and you know, we don't want a 3-hour podcast. That we save that for
I've never.
we save that for what's his name, the 3-hour podcast. What's his name that has the podcast? The you know the Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan and his 3-hour podcast. You know, that's we leave that to him.
Okay.
We try to be in drive time. We try to stick to drive time times.
So, you chose a couple of the concepts from the great courses to talk about organizational behavior today and how that applies to law firms, and how we can become better law firm
Yeah.
owners, leaders, and managers by understanding organizational behavior.
Right. I think that sort of the, as I call it, deframing statement, which I don't know where that word came from, but apparently it popped out. Strategy tells you what to do, but results come from whether your organization can actually do it consistently and at scale. In other words, you got to have the people to meld with the systems. And
Okay.
you make it happen.
So you're talking about how it all comes together.
How the sausage is made and how the bacon gets put in the bank.
Well, so originally, I think that the original topic would have been very interesting to me just because, in my experience, my 20 years of doing operations, or at least being a lawyer and doing operations, the people are kind of your secret sauce. They're unpredictable. And when you can get people completely aligned with your vision, which I know alignment is something we're going to talk about later in the
One of those
podcast.
words.
But when you get people aligned with your vision, like the best companies I've ever worked for, it just where people were aligned. And when you don't have it, you can't really put your finger on it except for the foo-foo word of we're just not aligned.
We're just not aligned.
We're not aligned.
I
So
mean, it's like, you know, every date I had in high school. We're
it
just not
doesn't
aligned,
matter.
you
Yep,
know?
it doesn't. Well, it doesn't matter if you have the best technology, right? So even if you do invest in even up and all the other great vendors out there, and it doesn't matter if you have the best CEO or the best COO or the best attorney, best paralegal, and all of and best intake. But that secret sauce of alignment, that's really where you can go from the next level and I think really make a difference.
All right. So when we get back, Diana is going to lay it all out for us on organizational behavior.
This podcast is sponsored by Marc Whitehead and Associates, a national disability benefits law firm. Marc Whitehead runs a firm of over 60 dedicated people whose mission is to make a difference in the lives of our injured and disabled clients. Marc represents disabled claimants in Social Security disability, private disability insurance, and veterans disability claims in all 50 states. Marc Whitehead is double board certified in both Social Security disability law and personal injury trial law. Marc has litigated disability cases in over 40 states and counting and can help your clients too. Stop throwing your phone calls away. Call Marc Whitehead at 701-VIP-LEAD. That's 701-VIP-LEAD. Or visit our website at disabilitydenials.com. Referral fees are paid in all jurisdictions where it is permitted. Refer us your disability cases today and know that your clients will be in good hands.
All right, Diana. So in the break, you and I are like riffing again. Who's leading this section of the podcast, you or me? Because we all know it's better when you actually lead it.
Well, let's all be clear. I mean, my outlines statistically perform better. I mean, because we
Every
do get
week,
listeners, we
we get
do.
I
I mean, we track everything in this firm. It is not just something that we say.
and we
We
know how
actually
many people listen every week.
and our downloads, and statistically, y'all love my outlines. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, well, then that just means I have to try harder because I'm not giving up.
Okay.
I'm not conceding the crown.
Well, I'm really excited about your take on organizational behavior and misbehavior, Mark. So why don't you go and get us started? I think you've laid out 5 points here in this segment that we're going to cover for organizational behavior. So why don't you kick us off with point one?
Okay, so point one, sort of the core teaching is your results require defined performance standards. Um, People don't know how to behave if they don't know if they're winning or not. They don't know if they don't know what the standard is, if they don't know what's expected of them. Quite frankly, if they don't know what the finish line is. It's sort of the gamification of work, and we've talked about that in this podcast before. And I know Atticus has taught. Is that a word? Teach is not the word.
I don't
Taught is the
know.
word. I wasn't an English major. Sorry.
I'm just curious what's in your coffee cup.
It's just coffee, sadly.
Okay. All right. So we're going to go with taught then.
We're gonna go with taught. So now I've even forgot what the hell I was going to say. Okay. Results require defined performance standards. We're just starting it over right there.
I don't really know what Max is going to do with that, but
Max, just keep going. Don't worry. Just
well, then if he's not cutting, Max is our
Max, don't cut
producer.
it. We're just it's
Listeners.
It's fine. High performance organizations define what success looks like in measurable terms. And then they translate their strategy into specific role level expectations. All right, so here's one. I was having this discussion earlier today. And the question was, how do we define KPIs? I was talking to one of my coaching clients today, who's a PI lawyer, and the question was, how do we set KPIs for our paralegals? And my answer, because I had just written this outline, popped into my head, which is it's all outcome based. What are the outcomes you were seeking to achieve with this particular employee? And it's not enough that they're working on a project or they're moving the ball forward on a project. When did they finish it? When was the project complete, or when was the specific thing complete? Example, this is the crap that we've been putting up this week. We've been trying to set depositions. And you know how hard it is to set depositions of a doctor. You got to have the defense attorney's available dates. You got to get the doctor's available dates. You've got to get your available dates. This one's going to be in a third-party city that nobody except the doctor lives in. All right, so now we're going to have to get conference rooms availability dates for the facility that we're going to use, and coordinating all of that stuff, okay? That KPI is not completed for that paralegal until that deposition notice is set and it is sent out and it is completed. The fact that you may have made some progress on this, or you may have gotten some dates, you haven't done anything. You've just started the process. Your KPI should be outcome derivative. You have to have completed the task to its fully. It has to be set. That depo notice needs to go out. That would be a very simple example of kind of an outcome-based KPI for that particular paralegal. Did you get this thing complete over the finish line? Something as simple as that.
So what would you call organizational misbehavior for this particular item, Mark?
Misbehavior. This was the example that he gave back to me about what his paralegal had done, is that she would constantly have work in progress. So I'm working on that. We're working on it. This is the excuse that you see a lot from maybe your not best employees, is they're constantly working on things, but they don't ever seem to get things over the finish line, get things done. And that's their excuse at every weekly level 10 meeting. Like, I'm working on it. No. When are you going to finish it? And this is what finished looks like.
So since you mentioned KPIs, what you're trying to really get to is by X date, or from this milestone to this next moment, then the deposition notice should be sent
Exactly.
in a specific finite amount of time.
Right. And here's the problem. Most firms fail because the expectation is in the owner's head. It's just in their head. It's not written down in a set of expectations or standards, or there's no scoreboard. We've talked about having the scoreboard on the wall, to gamify it. The standards are implied, they're not documented. We're working on that right now, in our federal court filings. We want our written discovery sent out within 30 days of the scheduling meeting with the judge, and we want depot notices sent out within 60 days of the scheduling meeting with the judge. So there's a finite beginning date, that scheduling meeting. There's known timelines, and the paralegals have to answer for it if it hasn't happened by that date. So it's a very known thing, and we've written it out, and they know it. So that's how you solve this problem. You can't just keep it in your head. It can't just be something that we discuss. It has to be something that they know specifically. I suggest putting a big timeline up on the wall. So,
Yep, and so one of the things, of course, that I love in Good to Great, Collins mentions that the comparison companies, those companies that never really made it to great, those good to great companies, they were actually, he noted that they were actually just as busy as the companies that did make it to the great ones. So I think that the lesson here is that you should not confuse being busy with actually moving the ball forward, which I know we're going to talk about in different ways throughout this entire podcast, Mark.
right. So the way the course had outlined it was, you cannot manage what is not defined at the output level. There must be an output, not a pending. There must be a finish line. There must be an output.
Yeah, I think, yesterday we were in our Atticus workday, and one of our Attic cousins asked about some KPIs for his case managers. And one of the ones that Ashton mentioned was when she was a paralegal, she had something about a demand had to be sent within what, like 30 days or X number of days of the max medical something.
Maximum medical improvement. Yes.
Yeah, max medical improvement. And that was that KPI that she had for when she was a paralegal. And I thought that that was, a good point here. It's not just that you have to wait until you're, quote unquote, working up the case or whatever, you're like what you just said, I'm moving it forward. You have a set timeline and clear definition from here to there.
Right.
So moving on, Mark, the next point that you wanted to bring up for organizational behavior.
Results depend on process discipline, not necessarily effort. Although effort's great, but that's not what it's dependent on. Effort is not a strategy. Process is the strategy. That's the way we look at it.
So tell me what that really means, Mark.
Okay, so results come from repeatable processes, things that you can repeat over and over and over and over again, particularly when you get at scale. It's not their individual heroics necessarily. So, high performers perform best, in other words, perform high, when they have processes and systems that they can follow. Low performers rely on memory and effort, and memory and effort frequently are not enough.
Yep. So, like, what is that really? How does that translate into a law firm?
Okay, you just want some real world examples. It's the difference between scripting it and winging it. Okay, we don't want people winging it. God, let me give you an example. Okay, so when we have an initial SSD application come in, and I want to bore people with SSD talk because I know I do it, and it kind of gets boring for me. But when we get that, we have some deadlines. We have to get certain information in by a certain amount of time after the case is opened. And frequently our clients are not that great about doing it. A lot of times they have mental issues, they have cognitive issues, they have chronic pain syndrome. They're not the best about wanting or meeting the internal deadlines of a law firm because they're just not used to that, you know. So we have tried to set up systems and processes to have actually assist the client and help the client with that, such as our onboarding calls and what's that Benny technology that you've installed?
I do love Benny. It
You
just
love
helps
Benny.
automate.
I love Benny because Benny has a cool name.
You and Kimberly also have that in common.
Right. That's the reason I love Claude, because Claude's has a cool name. I had an uncle Claude. Chat GTP just doesn't flow off the lips the same way. So that's the way I look at it. But anyway, go ahead.
I about Benny.
About Benny.
Benny helps our SSD teams with applications and recons. So it does.
But it's a process.
No, absolutely, which was a process that was
It's
done
a
by hand.
repeatable process,
But it was a process that was already being done by hand and
but it was
by
being
multiple people, and
but it
this
was
automates
being
it.
done sort of ad hoc, and everybody did
Oh
it
gosh, I hope
differently.
not.
No, I guarantee you, every person over there was doing it slightly different before Benny was
Well,
instituted.
okay, we're getting into the technical weeds about what Benny
You're the
actually
one
does.
that asked for an example.
All applications have to be done in the exact same
You
way
gotta do it
or
the
it
same
would be
way
illegal.
because
But
they're being fed into
um
the beast.
so I think what made me think the example that I thought of, Mark, again, I'm going to pull from an Atticus in. I don't know if this was at our last Atticus work day or if this is one of the rope meetings that I've had, which it is another word for a smaller team on your Atticus team, Atticusins. But it was an estate planning firm, and the issue that they were addressing is that their clients had already been qualified, but they were seeing a drop off between qualification and meeting with the attorney. And after workshopping that, we were able to see like, well, that was like 2 or 3 weeks from the time that they were qualified to the time of the meeting of the attorney, because as we know, attorneys will put that off. They
God,
have no incentive.
attorney stock.
Yeah,
Let's just be
they
real
have
about
no
it.
attorneys to, if they don't have the drive to get that on the books, they're gonna push that out to something else that maybe may get them, a bonus or anything else. But,
Mm,
so we workshopped some ideas that could maybe either keep the client more engaged, like, for example, automated reminders between that 2 to 3 if you absolutely had to commit to that 2 to 3, week window, doing automated reminders, but also I love giving clients homework. That's just one of my secrets. I give clients homework whenever they get into these long waiting periods. Like when you're waiting on medical
just
records,
give them
personal injury
give them
forms,
something to do.
give them something to do. They feel more engaged in their own process, but it also feels like, oh, that this timeline is no longer just me sitting here waiting for you to call me back about something that they have zero control over. Their homework is something they have control over, and all human nature wants that. So, I think when you talk about process discipline, not necessarily effort, having the discipline to have either automated reminders, that's through technology, of course, or just being able to have the process discipline of giving something back to the client.
Okay. So the thought I would leave you with this one is that to firms that want to scale, you want to reduce variation and standardize execution. In other words, you want your people doing it the same way. The best way. I mean, I hate it when somebody says, "Give me your best paralegal. Can you assign me your best paralegal?" They're all my best paralegals because they're all going to do it the same way. Well, they better be. So, anyway, what do we got next?
You have discussed measurement, and how it focuses on outcomes, not activity.
Right. That's kind of goes back to the example I was giving you earlier. It's not enough to say, I'm working on it. What is the actual outcome? The measurement must focus on the outcome. Um, and it's the easiest way for an employee to hide. I'm working on it. It's pending. By the way, at level 10 today, I was going through your outline. There was a lot of pendings in there. And I'm not going to say whose name was on those, but I'm just saying.
That's because I gave you some of those things for your approval, and they're pending because you haven't
Oh,
approved
now you're
them.
going to flip it on me.
Well, it's not a flip. It's you brought it up. I didn't. You're just trying to throw me under the bus when the reality is.
I love throwing you under the bus, especially when you're not there. See, so today, Diana always runs our level 10 meetings, and today she couldn't be there for the first 30 minutes, so she asked me to start it. Well, what sort of mischief do you think I got into? If you leave it to me to do it, you should.
Okay.
I'm sure we have a transcript somewhere. You can go look.
I am going to leave that one alone. Mark, the thing that I've noticed, especially as, I've been with you 5.5 years. And so we've done, as you guys hear, if you're regular listeners, we've done the 101s of KPIs, which we talk about. So we're now kind of in the 201s of the sophomore level of tracking KPIs. And what I found is that even if we were tracking outcomes, they have to be the quote unquote right outcomes. So what I've seen is, for example, tasks completed is great because you can see all of your pod one case managers, for example, should all have the same or similar number of tasks completed. It's a great way to find out who is not actually doing the work or maybe not getting the work done efficiently. But it would seem to be also hiding actual forward progress on the case. So, for example, touch points with the client were, I will call you back this week, which counts as a touch point to the client, but it wasn't the actual call back to the client.
Yeah,
So now we're getting
that's BS, isn't it?
well, it's smart, right? Because our clients are, like, hey, I called you today. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to call you back this week. But we also needed to build in a system now to actually confirm that the callback happened. So it's, the callback is the results and the I will call you back is effort, which is what I think you're talking about here.
So what I wrote down here from the outline was if you measure effort, you'll get effort. If you measure results, you'll get results. So the common failure is measuring inputs, meaning the effort, instead of measuring the output, meaning the results. Don't measure the effort because, that could just be wasted effort. That could be busy work. Measure the outputs. Did you actually get something done? Um, I will say that I can be pretty bad about this sometimes. I will get in the office and I will just start knocking out just stupid busy to-dos just to make myself feel better about the day. And really at the end of the day, like, what did I get done? Like, well, I got somebody to clean my grill and I got somebody to work on my boat, but did I do anything for the business today? No, I just screwed around all day. So I didn't get any results from the day. My wife would disagree. She would say those are great results, but at the end of the day, I feel bad about myself because I didn't do anything for the firm.
Well, and I think everybody has the busy work stuff. I mean, I
Yeah.
think that everybody has their pet projects. And definitely, whenever I talk to some of our team leads, I encourage the pet projects because those are the things that really take the minutia out of your job. And sometimes your job can just be hard and unsatisfying. And so the things that give you happiness, like one of our team leads, we love Waybook. She loves Waybook. And I'm like, okay, we're done with Waybook for this
Mhm.
quarter. Okay. So I think what we're really trying to say here is that beware of those KPIs and those activities, those metrics that reward employees or activity for just touching files, but without actually moving the file forward.
Right, right. All right. So, fourth on our list, feedback loops drive continuous improvement. Um, so the obvious feedback loop that we use in our office is the weekly level 10 meetings. Every week we talk frequently. We talk about the same thing we talked about the week before, but we're getting this continuous feedback loop. How are we doing? How are you moving your rock? How are we moving this project forward? Have we IDS this? Have we solved the problem? Is it still a problem? It just it's the habit of that feedback loop, and that's really what it is. It's a habit. I was talking today again about controlling your finances. And that's really like, it's a habit. You just need to look at it every single week and just be on top of it. And if you do that, things tend to work out in a good way. Um, so if your system doesn't correct itself, it will eventually break. And that's basically the sign of a poor feedback loop.
Yeah, nature abhors a vacuum for sure. But I will say that, the opportunity for feedback and continuous improvement requires high trust on any team. Otherwise, it's going to look like a blame game, or you brought up something to make me look bad, or something that isn't necessarily productive. And so I would caution that, the feedback loop isn't necessarily always where we would start. But one of my recent passion projects for the firm that I've restarted. I took a year off. I'm restarting. I believe in it this year because I tried this before, but is what I'm calling the quarterly intake ops meetings. So our intake manager, Erica, sits in with each of the ops departments, accepting not mass torts, but each of the anything that brings in revenue, basically. And LT insurance has a couple different ones, and she has these meetings after the quarter to discuss what's they're seeing. So it's not only to discuss the handoff between intake and ops, but also once the case has closed, back to intake of, hey, I really like these cases. These cases are not doing well anymore. Or, hey, this one actually was like, get me more of these. And so we're trying to get better about that feedback loop and making it a continuous actual feedback loop all the way around, not just necessarily stopping it right there at intake to ops, which is where a lot of people, where I mean, we've historically been,
Yeah.
but just trying to really make sure that intake and ops are working closely together.
Right. Because what you're trying to do within that feedback loop is you're trying to learn and you're trying to adapt. in a continuous manner. That's kind of the whole point of the feedback loop, is to keep getting better. And there's no way, for example, in this case, there's no way that intake can really get better if she doesn't see the results of the cases that they brought in as they move through the process, because she learns more about what's a good intake. And they can provide a ton of feedback to her.
And it's really satisfying. One of the things that we've always done, Mark, and you've done a great job, and your all staff is doing 5-star reviews. And what we try to do consistently, again, it's just one of my efforts, so I need to be more consistent about it. But in our 5-star reviews, of course, we pick ones out for intake as well as ops. But when we mention the ops, we try to mention the intake specialist, because if you can say, oh, hey, Marc Whitehead left us a great review. Mark is a veteran, and he's, this is what he said about Diana as his case manager. Oh, and by the way, Erica was his intake specialist. She's going to probably go back to Mark's intake and be like, oh, I remember Mark. He had the something, something. And so it really gives them some sense of closure and recognition of that they did a good job as well.
So I want to point out the negative if you don't have a good feedback loop. The problem when you don't have a good feedback loop is that problems will compound, but the problem is they compound silently, and you don't know about them until shit hits the fan.
So this is your organizational misbehavior again?
My organizational misbehavior.
So what does that look like, Mark?
Oh, okay. So there was a time, probably my fault, probably when I was doing the books more than now, though I have professional people better than I am, that we would have mistakes within our accounting system. Not hard mistakes, not big mistakes, but small mistakes, but just nobody would correct them, because it was kind of up to me to do it, and I'm kind of got lazy about it. And they just compounded and compounded and compounded. And then all over time, all of a sudden, the books are out of whack. And it took an enormous amount of effort to try to get the books back into credible shape, because we just let small things compound over time. That would be one just real quick example.
So let's
I'm
just
sure
make
you have
sure
some examples.
let's make sure we don't get in trouble with the the State Bar of Texas. We are not talking about our trust account.
We are not talking about the
Our
trust
trust
account.
account is
Rock
completely
solid.
clean.
Rock solid.
I think what Mark is talking about, just again for anyone else who's a little concerned about our accounting here, you know how in QuickBooks you can get things classed to the wrong account. So, for example, we actually just did our review of Q1 financials due to scheduling conflicts, and software can either go under software or it can go under subscriptions. And so, but it depends really where you have them budgeted. And so we have to go back now because we may have moved some things now that Q1's completely on the books, and reclass those and make sure that we are, one, not really over budget, but two, that things are going in the right spot. We are not talking about our trust accounting,
Our trucks,
which is so clean.
it is clean as a whistle.
So moving on to number 5, Mark, this is my favorite one because it is the most touchy-feely of
It
them
is
all.
the foo-foo word alignment. You're going to take this one.
Well, Mark, you're talking about alignment as the multipliers, the force multiplier. And so in my research for this podcast, I found out that Patrick Lencioni had actually written a book on it's called The Advantage, but the whole book is dedicated to the idea that alignment matters more than strategy, finance, or marketing. A healthy, aligned organization will always outperform a smarter but misaligned one. And I mean, I think
So
that's
can I?
just beautiful.
It's a nice phrase, and it sounds good. Prove it.
Prove what?
How do we know that Lencioni knows what the hell he's talking about?
Oh, well, I didn't read the book. I just did research on
Okay.
the idea.
So
But
here's my thing about these kind of bold statements is like strategy. What culture eats strategy for lunch? You've heard that one before. You hear all of these statements. Prove it. It's just
I
a
think it's really,
slogan.
but I really do think it has as much to do with Good to Great, Collins's book. Like, what does it take why do companies who have the same things, right? The same opportunity to capital, the same markets, the same strategy, the same equally talented people, why does one outperform the others, but the other one just does not have the same results? And I think it has to do with those touchy-feely things like alignment.
So give us some concrete examples of what that really means in the real world. I'm being a bit of a devil's advocate here because I think I agree with his premise, but give me something more concrete.
And so you're going to hate this because you hate talking about core values. But for me, yeah, you're already trying not to roll
I'm
your
already
eyes.
I'm already
But to
shifting
me,
my chair.
alignment means that whenever your core values, you put your money where your mouth is, right? You're basically saying that this is the behavior that I reward and that is important to me. So if you're saying that teamwork, Mark, since that is one of our core values here, but then you're always rewarding the lone wolf and or giving all of your best cases to your attorney, your best attorney or your favorite attorney, that is not living up to your core values, and that's creating misalignment in your organization, whether or not you realize it. I think the thing that I think there was a maybe it's Bezos. Somebody said basically that your culture isn't how you describe it, the words that you use. It's learned by watching how people get rewarded and punished. And that's like a Bezos. It's not exactly his
It's how
quote.
you show up.
I think it's how you treat people and whether or not you're treating them the same and what you say you value. So,
What I
um,
just said.
okay. So I think the gap between your stated values and your actual incentives is also where misalignment happens.
True. Give us some examples.
So the thing that your attorneys, and Mark hates this one too, so he's going to roll his eyes again. The thing with our attorneys is that we're trying to get them more aggressive with their discovery and with their litigation. And our attorneys, yeah, I don't know if all of your attorneys, please email me, let me know, but I don't know if all attorneys are this way because
Diana
I
at
was not.
markwhitehead.com. Mark
Diana, Mark,
LLC.
yeah, Diana in one end. But they our attorneys are bonused on the settlement of the case. So obviously they are incentivized in some form or fashion to get the case settled. However, what does discovery do? Discovery pushes that settlement out a little bit further because you are increasing the timeline on the case. So there is the push and the pull that Mark feels from the attorneys whenever they're like, but wait, you told me to settle more cases. And Mark's like, and you want me to do the discovery. Which one is it? And Mark's like, both.
Both.
And so I think that can sometimes feel like misalignment, and it takes repeated conversations to be able to actually explain that that's not misalignment, that I am actually saying both things, and I'm going to give you the tools to be successful in that.
Right. All right. So I think the key takeaways are, achieving results is not about working harder or hiring better people. It's really about the clear standards, creating repeatable outcomes, that continuous feedback alignment, as you like to use the word, and outcome-based measurement. It's kind of the way I would focus this. Um, I think we do a pretty damn good job of this here. And quite frankly, I think that's because you're in charge of that.
I think I do. I think Mark has done an incredible job,
Oh, so now you're just puffing. You know you did it.
I think that and what I'm realizing though, and what I'm realizing, not but and what I'm realizing is that with every level of growth, you are challenged to do better. And it's almost like starting at ground zero all over again.
That's what makes it fun.
But it's also a recognition that I was like, I thought I already did this. Like, oh wait, I have to do it at this level now. And then so it is, yeah, it's fun, but it does take the recognition, the self-awareness to realize it's not that it's broken, it's just that we have to iterate again. And it is exciting, but you have to realize that you're no longer aligned, and that can be a hard pill to swallow when you work so hard to get it there.
I will say that was one of the reasons I really kind of enjoyed when we were doing the Pillman Mastermind is we were hanging around people who were bigger than us.
No, I keep telling you, I still tell you that.
You hang around where you're the average of the 5 people you hang around the most. So let's hang around some really rich, successful people. That's what masterminds do.
I
So
keep telling
we
you
plug
that.
in Ken's mastermind right now.
I mean, and I still go back to my mastermind notes, and I'm still implementing some of those things sometimes. And I do believe that Atticus is absolutely great. You are the big dog in that, you and Craig are in the big dogs in that room. And that's also, I think, nice for egos to be in those rooms too.
Not me. I don't have an ego at all. No.
So when we come back, Mark.
When we come back, we're going to give you our 5 action steps going forward on how to improve your organizational behavior.
Or misbehavior.
Or misbehavior, yes. This is Marc Whitehead, lawyer, entrepreneur, and business coach. Thanks for listening to the Successful Barrister podcast. If we've stirred your juices, hit me up with an email at mark@markwhitehead.com. Remember, Mark is spelled with a C. and get on the Successful Barrister newsletter mailing list. Even better, let's set up a call. I'd love to talk to you about working together, talk shop, or just shooting the breeze. All right, we're back, Diana. So our 5 action steps going forward with regard to organizational behavior, as has been laid out by the great courses, Critical Business Skills for Success, chapters 1 and 2. 'Cause I didn't get to the rest of it.
Not the rest of it.
Well, that'll be a
It
future
was good though.
future podcast. Again, I will go back and plug the great courses, and I know I've said this on the podcast before, but the great courses is a subscription-based app where you get to hear, and actually a lot of them have videos, hear and see many lectures on just a plethora of topics, such as how to play chess, or how to do critical business skills for success, or how to learn French, or how to paint in watercolor. There's just an amazing number of
Interesting.
courses over there. And being the history geek that I am, I do a lot of the history stuff too, like that. Anyway, great courses, plug. 5 action steps going forward. How are we doing this? Who's
All
going
right, I
first?
think you've got number 1, Mark.
Do I have number 1?
You do.
Oh, okay. All right, so here's my first one. So go through and evaluate your activity metrics, which, as we defined earlier, are effort metrics. These are the inputs. And try to associate that with an outcome metric. In other words, we want to not just measure activity, we want to measure outcomes. So think about when you're looking at what things that you measure in your firm, when you're measuring the activity, try to flip it on its head, do the inverse of it, and try to figure out how to measure the outcome. Okay?
All right, my action step going forward, which is number 2, is to identify repeatable processes. I'd start with your bottlenecks, guys, and I mean, if you have a bottleneck, you probably don't have a repeatable procedure, and that's just ipso facto in Diana's head. But
It's a really bad procedure if you do.
exactly. So I would
Or
find
you're
that,
understaffed or under technology. So that is another possibility.
but that's going to be a repeatable process that you
Okay.
can identify and then fix there. So find your bottlenecks and identify, create repeatable processes.
So I guess number 3 on our list, now that we've gone through a number 1 and kind of identified the activity metrics and the outcome metrics, go through your organizational chart, your roster of employees, whatever you want to call it, and for each role, define the outcomes that you want for that role. Not what they actually do on a day-to-day basis, but the outcomes that you want to see from that particular role. You know, for your lawyer, what are the outcomes that you're looking, and our lawyers, we're looking for them to resolve cases successfully. Whatever that looks like on a day-to-day basis, how many cases are they resolving successfully? How much money are they generating? How are they satisfying, and solving the client's problems? That's the outcome that we're looking for from lawyers. Case managers, what are the outcomes we're looking for? We're looking for them to actually get the case from one level to the next as fast as we can, and there's a lot of steps in between. That's the effort part. But what is the actual outcome that we're looking for? So go through your roster of people, your organizational chart, and for each position, this is a position thing, not necessarily a person thing. What are the outcomes you're looking to achieve?
Great. And so number 3 for me, Mark, number 4. Number 4 of our 5 is to implement a feedback loop so you can learn and adapt. I think the highest level firms, or those performing at a high level, all have a feedback loop. And you may already have that intake to ops feedback loop, but also just go back and make sure you're also doing like what we're doing or trying to implement here, and make sure intake's getting an idea of those cases that they really like or that are performing well.
Yes. Okay. Lastly, the 5th one on our list, I would say you want to align. We're using that foo-foo word again. Align.
Hmm.
You want to align your goals, your processes, your incentives that you're giving your people, and their behaviors that you're trying to get with those incentives. You want all of those things to be aligned so you ultimately get where you want to be. You achieve the outcomes you are seeking to achieve, hopefully to have a very profitable law firm. And if you identify any misalignment between the goals, processes, incentives, and behavior, then you need to do what you need to do to correct that deficiency and get those things aligned. because it all flows. Goals, processes, incentives, behaviors. Make it happen.
All right, Mark.
All right. Any final comment on this? Saying this is your love language here. This is your geeky talk.
Really?
Yeah, I think it is. This is your strike zone.
Well, I think the
You kind of pay it
other
all together.
I do, and I think that the other chapters discuss that more. But
I
like
know I
said,
didn't get to the deep chapters that you really love.
I do. Maybe we'll do those in future podcasts.
We are not doing a Joe Rogan podcast, so just bite size.
All right.
All right.
Coming up next.
With that, we got to get out of here. So I want to thank everybody for listening to the Successful Barrister podcast, where legal legends are made. I'm Mark.
And I'm Diana.
And together we're the dynamic duo of law. So if you've enjoyed today's episode, please rate and review it and share it with your fellow overworked lawyers who could use a little inspiration. So for more episodes and resources, visit us at successfulbarrister.com or hit me up with an email, mark@markwhitehead.com. Mark is spelled with a C. Or Diana with one N, not Diana.
Yep.
It's just Diana with one N.
Yep.
So just messing with your name, Diana@markwhitehead.com. And do not forget about our sponsors, Marc Whitehead and Associates, a national disability law firm, which can be found at www.disabilitydenials.com. So until next time, not a practice, not a prison. See ya.
Bye.